All right, we're back again. It's Xbox Talks number 53. My name is Foreman. You might see me on the community rolling around sometimes. I'm joined today by Anthony.
Hey, how you doing?
Good.
Sorry.
It's always
give me a second.
Whenever we start the show, I'm always like sweating bullets. I'm like, is the mic going to work? Is everything going to go okay? So glad you're here and able to join us. And we're also joined tonight by Mikey J. Raymond, who wasn't with us last week, and we're happy to have you back.
Hi. It's just after the pause too, it was also very unenthusiastic. Hey, hi.
Hey.
By the way, I'm here. So I'm glad that you guys could join me tonight. We got a lot of news to roll through, and usually what we do before we get started with the news, we kind of go around and see how everybody's been doing and what kind of games we've been playing. First, let me tell you a little about the show. If those of you that are joining us by podcast, you're probably familiar because you probably found us by subscription, and we just roll through the news every week. We're from the Xbox Series X community. A couple of the mods come up here and host. I think the really cool thing about this show, though, is that we can get audience members involved too. So those of you that are filing in live, you can come on up and join us. We have some prizes to give away. Maybe we'll play a little trivia, all kinds of fun stuff like that. But without further ado, let's go around and get our introductions done. And let's start with Anthony again. And come on, more enthusiasm this time.
I am enthusiastic. I have to be quiet. It's late night here.
I forget about that. Yeah.
So I'm keeping my voice down. What have I been playing? I've been playing Hogwarts Legacy a lot. It's still captured me. I've not finished it. I'm nowhere close to finishing the game. But every time I think I've seen it all, there's a whole new dynamic happens or a whole new gameplay thing. So I'm currently sort of like capturing animals and looking after animals, and I've just started doing astronomy, looking at stars. It's just insane. The scope of the game is incredible.
It seems to be. I haven't played it, but I've been watching a lot of streamers play it, and I've seen there's just so much to do. Like, everybody seems like they're having a good time, and I actually saw somebody just wrapping it up earlier this week, Jesse from Xbox Era, and it's a good watch. It's not just fun to play, I'm sure, but if you have a backseat gaming, they call it, like I could definitely sit and watch somebody play that game and have a good time.
It's one of those, like, I don't know if not long ago we talked about Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and I was like, how do you even make a game like this? How do you there's so much detail in the game, and so it's so vast, so big. It's like, how do you even create this world? And it's got that kind of vibe to it. When I was playing it, it's just vast, and everything, everywhere you look, is so detailed. Every door you can open and go in, and just little things like that.
How much
the exploration? I'm into that exploration. I like just wandering around, discovering things. It's great.
Yeah, like, how much time do you think you have into it so far?
I'm probably like 20 hours or something, 25 hours.
That's a good little clip. So, do you have any idea how far along you are in it at 25 hours?
It says I'm only like 27% done or something like that when I go into the menu.
Okay. So you got a long way to go.
Yeah, I'm tons, which is great, right? It's great because it's the first game that I've actually spent full price on because of Game Pass for some time. So I'm definitely getting my money's worth out of it, which is cool.
It's I think it was a $70 game. Is that correct, or whatever the UK price is
60,
equivalent?
Yeah, it was 65, but I had loads of reward points, but I built up, so it cost me about £40.
Yeah, okay. But, the reward points are nice. Cool.
I've seen Mikey playing it. I know Mikey's been playing it as well. Probably as heavy.
He has been playing that. He's been playing Atomic Heart 2, I think he was sharing with us. So let's go with Hogwarts first, though. How far did you make it into it? You said you had to take a little break, huh?
Yeah, I just had to look. I'm at 51 hours. So
solid.
And I haven't played it for a week. I got way into it. Then I was sick one day.
I'm sure you have more hours in a day than like most normal people. I don't understand how you do this.
Mikey has a 30-hour day. That's his secret. He doesn't share it, but
you can like freeze time or something, and it's just madness.
I was getting kind of burnt out. I was trying to do as much side content as I could, as I possibly could. And now I'm trying to get all the little owl statues so I have a Alohomora so that when I'm walking around, I don't come across level lock 2s and 3s and I can't actually unlock them. So that's the last thing I was doing. I remember like when I first got a token from the keys that you can slap down in the chests, I immediately did that whole thing. immediately. It took me like 4 hours to find them all.
I know what you mean.
And I had the Gryffindor cloak, and it's so freaking sweet. I think Hogwarts is excellent. There's some things that could be better. The story's kind of generic, but there's just so much. The thing that gets me about this game, and also I'll talk about Atomic Heart later. You can tell there was a lot of love put into it. A lot of details were covered with painstaking love, as I'll call it, an oxymoron. They really seemed to care about what they were doing and getting it right. And all the characters are actually interesting to the point that you don't want to skip dialogue. Like if you're one of those people that if something goes on and on, you'll skip through dialogue. This is one of those ones that I haven't done.
And there's not too many options, is there? So when you speak to someone, there's only ever like 3 conversation threads you can have. It doesn't go on, or it doesn't branch and branch. It's sort of like you've got like a couple of options. You get through them quickly, even if you're listening to the whole thing.
And you can either be really nice or you can be a total dick. I'm currently working on getting my second curse, which takes forever. You have to be like level 28 to get them all. So most people, I guess, complete the main story by the time they get there. But because I've been doing so much side content, I'm a higher level, and thankfully everything scales with me, it seems. But I'm trying to get the second curse, which is what is it called? Forget. It's not Avada Kedavra. It's something else. Because Creatious Curse is the first one, and I might have said that wrong, and I'm so sorry if I did.
Yeah, I'm going to be of no help to you here, so.
But I'm loving that game. I think it's terrific. But I like I said, I did have to take a break. In the meantime, I managed to wrap up Stranded Deep. That took me quite a few hours too, but wrapped that up, completed that. I beat a game called Who's Your Daddy? I think that's what it's called.
All right, give us a synopsis of that. That's I know everything else you're talking about, but
it's a competitive multiplayer game with up to 8 people, but you can go do 1v1s online. And you're either the daddy who's trying to or you're either the baby who's trying to kill themselves, or you're the dad who's trying to keep the baby alive. And it's beyond janky. I'm not going to lie, but it is so ridiculously fun. You can fill up the sink and put the plug in, and then, oh, my cat jumped up. And then you can also, you can drown the whole house. Or you can put yourself in the oven, turn the oven on, and roast yourself as the baby. It's just so dumb.
So is it like a physics game, or is it more like a Fall Guys? Like I'm having a hard time. Like you said, it's 8 players. Is it cooperative or kind of competitive, or
it's competitive?
Okay,
so you can have 4 dads, 4 kids, or you can have 7 dads and 1 kid, or you can have 7 kids and 1 dad.
Nice.
One of the achievements is to drink something like 50 gallons of bleach.
What?
Yeah, so it's one of those games.
Yeah. You have it up now, and it's beyond jank. Like there's a great achievement to mow like 20% of the yard.
Terrible.
Oh, it's probably the capture coming to you. It looks better on our video.
Oh, right. Okay.
It's fun though.
Yeah, I just saw him doing a lawnmower move. It looked like Grand Theft Auto, where he was like rolled over on his head, and he obviously like press left, and the lawnmower is okay, and things are good to go. So it looks like an Octodad or something like that kind of, but even stupider. But that might be a compliment. I don't know how to put it.
Yeah, it's I would say it's dumber than that. Dumber than Octodad. Less story driven. There's no point behind it, no rhyme or reason. There's also an achievement to like get into Daddy's liquor cabinet and then go for a ride. There's a little tiny vehicle that you can ride in the backyard. So it's a good mess around game. The other one I completed, that I put some time into, mainly because I had to keep my Xbox running for an achievement, was the Stanley Parable.
I love the Stanley
Ultra
Parable
Deluxe. Yeah, I played the original back in 2012 on Steam. Loved it, played it a whole ton, and then I was watching a Donkey video, and I didn't realize there was a sequel. Well, not really a sequel, but I didn't realize that this had come out, and it was on console, so I bought it full price, and I just had one heck of a Sunday.
That's a good way to spend it. That's like seems like an all day kind of like a good game to get into like that. The sequel now, I've only played it since the sequel came out, but I remember you like go into a different room and they're like, now you can jump, right? Like I don't want to spoil too much of it, but like you get to jump like one time, and I think that's kind of it. And it has such a great sense of humor and a great warped reality that it kind of puts you into. And I didn't make it all the way through, so I imagine that you learned some more twists and stuff that I didn't see, because I still have questions about that game that make it likely for me to go back and play it more than other games, because I'm that curious about what does it all mean, man? Because that game is crazy.
Yeah, there is. What's really fun about it is that you can experiment, and the game rewards you for it. So I won't spoil too much, but there's a hole you can jump in, for example, and then eventually you get out, but you can do it again, and you get different dialogue. And he's like, oh, narrator's like, oh, you did it again. Why? Why would you do it again?
That's the narrator. Is the best part.
You get out of the hole again, you can do it another time, and he'll respond in a different way until it like kind of locks you out of the content. But it allows you to experiment and to find more fun in the thing you're doing and keep going. And it gets really weird at times.
It's
beyond the absurd. I love it.
Yeah, it's a great concept, great game. A lot of people loved it. It's a great psychological game. I like to watch people play it for the first time. And are they the type of person that's going to follow every command, or do they immediately do the opposite of what is being asked of them? You know, every time I watch my kids play, and I got a kind of kick of seeing which way they went with it. So I had one daughter that went the straight-laced way, and she followed every command, and my other daughter was just like, screw that, I'm jumping off I'm going this way, you know. And that's what is fun, to play through multiple playthroughs, because you can see the different outcomes, just like you said, with the different dialogues. So I recommend that game. I played enough of it where I can join you in that, and it's kind of cool that you made it through it. It could probably be done in a day.
What kind of player are you? Do you find that you want, so like Hogwarts now, you said you can be a dick or you can just play. Like I always find like I'm like, I kind of play by the book. No matter what game I play, like Mass Effect, I remember I was always like a paragon. I find it hard to be a dick.
You've never like if you have a choice between a good and the evil faction, or a good and bad faction, do you go with the good guys?
I always end up going good. But so, Mikey, what do you do? In Hogwarts, are you a dick?
It depends on. So like with the house elf, for example, there's options where you can be a big meanie butt to him.
A big meanie butt.
And I'm like, I can't do it. I can't do it to a house elf. I can't do this.
Can't do it.
But like a student, like when I was playing, there's that game you can play where you pull the ball across the grid. Oh, and after I smack some kid, I'm just like, no, you didn't play well. You just suck. Like I'm always mean in that dialogue. Like, you're just not good. I'm sorry. Or the person that you have to race with on brooms, and she's just this, doesn't acknowledge how good you are or anything. Total dick to her. Total dick.
There was a really popular post that compared Hogwarts to Fable in a lot of ways, and the way you're describing it kind of gives me that kind of vibe with the decision making like that. So, does it affect the outcome of the game depending on? No, because I've heard
no actual moral system.
Yeah,
no.
And like learning the curses and stuff, you can cast them in front of teachers, and they'll go, "Where did you learn that? Don't ever do that again. Forget that spell," like stuff like that. So
that's naughty magic.
But they don't report you to defense or the ministry, so it's all good.
Interesting. Well, I mean, a lot of people have been enjoying Hogwarts, so we'll get more and more impressions as that goes on. I don't know if it's going to be in that game of the year conversation. I think that's kind of a fun topic right now already. When it first came out that first week, there were a lot of people that were saying they felt it was going to be that way, but now it seems that it's been out for a little bit. A lot of people were kind of attributing some of the popularity due to the Harry Potter franchise, which I think is almost a no-brainer to say that, but they think that it's going to have a hard time stacking up come the end of the year. I will ask both of you guys, because you both played it pretty extensively, it sounds like. Would this be in your conversation of game of the year? Say, is it going to be like one of your top five?
At this point, having, in February, yes.
Okay.
But who knows, come November.
Yeah, I mean, right now we have that Hi-Fi Rush, and, it is way early in the year. Yeah. We know we have Starfield, Diablo, Spider-Man 2, Final Fantasy 16, and lots of games on all kinds of different systems, and it's going to be really stiff competition. But I just wondered if it was if you had a good enough time with it
it's
to
high
say,
at this point. At this point, it's up there for me. I think I've had a great time with it.
I will say it's got two things. One, it has a better chance than Forspoken.
Okay.
Sorry, I just wanted to take one shot at the podcast. It's a joke. I love Forspoken. Two, I think sales wise, it's doing well enough that it'll be nominated. I don't think it deserves Game of the Year though.
Okay.
It's a fantastic title, but it doesn't quite hit that notch.
Right.
For me.
Do you think the controversy surrounding it will put off publications from putting it forward?
Unfortunately, 100% I do. If anything, if you want to go by, was it Wired? The Wired review, or some of the other ones we've seen, there will be places that will just go against it just because of and one of my favorite characters is actually Sirona. And it's actually one of the few characters I can name, the trans character in Hogwarts. I love her.
Oh, the bar lady.
Yes, the bar
I was
owner.
confused at first. There was no explanation of that. Was there? She just got a male voice, and it was just threw me.
Which is really unfortunate that it gets so much hate because they just did such a wonderful job with her character. I felt, and well, we won't talk too much about it.
We could easily go down
2 weeks ago.
Yeah, we could go down a very large rabbit hole that we don't want to spend any time in. Really, it's everybody's well aware of the controversy surrounding the game. I think a lot of people dismissed it maybe without giving it a fair review and a fair take, and that's their prerogative, and that is your right. There's certainly products I avoid because I have moral issues with the creators and all that, and we all have to make those calls through our day-to-day lives. Everything is kind of impacted by one thing or another. So I'm glad that you guys both enjoyed it. Yes, the controversy is still there. You can not really ignore it, but don't let it impact your own personal values and playtime, I guess. In the end, everybody has to make their own decisions. So I will quickly go, and I'm just going to talk about Darkest Dungeon for the third week in a row. And I'm almost there. I've developed quite the roster. It's a there's a lot of thought that goes into this game and creating your characters, and it is kind of a miserable slog. I've lost so many characters that I loved, and the permadeath is happening all the time in that game, and it's just you just kind of roll with it. You learn to quit getting attached to them, and you just build a roster that this is why I made it really thick. So I'm ready to go into what they call the Darkest Dungeon. It's the last area, so hopefully next week I'll be able to report on the end of the game, and I can move on to something else, because it seems to be my prerogative to play games that are like 3 or 4 years old. That's where I live. That's my wheelhouse. So so we can move on from that and kind of get into the news. And holy cow, it's been a little over a week since we've been with you last, and there's been a lot of developments. And I think maybe the thing I want to lead off with is the thing that was kind of the most controversial this week, and still maybe a little confusing to some people, and that has to deal with Baldur's Gate 3. Sorry, I didn't want to start on kind of a maybe an unfun topic, and it's not really that it is unfun. It's just there's a lot of confusion out there, and there was a lot of confusion early in the week where we had a lot of mudslinging. People were accusing Sony of paying for exclusivity, as they've been known to do, but people are really quick to jump to that angle. They're just like, oh my gosh, if something runs better on the PlayStation, they're like, Sony must have paid them to make it run better on the PlayStation. And I think that's where sometimes people get a little carried away. We know that they're fighting tooth and nail for consumers, but as far as a developer being like actually developing a game to run better, they might prioritize, but they're not going to like purposely make it run worse on another system. So that was kind of a weird take to me. But anyways, getting back to the heart of the story, we got some word from the developer, and they said that the reason it wasn't announced on Xbox, and that's the controversy here, it was announced on PlayStation at the PlayStation Direct earlier this week. And people were like, oh man, they got us again. We're not going to get it on Xbox. But the reason that they didn't announce it on Xbox is because they're not ready to announce it on Xbox. So are you guys aware of the story? I'm sure you probably are. It's a pretty big one. Why is the reason that they couldn't bring it to Xbox? What's the holdup here?
There is a rumor, because consoles are getting split screen. And if you look at this PC requirements, so the other story that came out is they're going to be raising the minimum specs for PCs ever so slightly. It's like a card generational bump and like 5 to 10% more power required. And given the new specs, the Series S is just a little above those. And one of the things they have on consoles is split screen, but that's not on PC. There is no split screen on PC. So one of the things that I'm curious about is if they're having trouble getting the minimum spec Series S running with split screen. I don't know. But that's one of the things that came out last week, or this week, I should say, that could be part of the problem, which would be unfortunate. Other than that, I don't know how true that is. I give it like a 20% chance to be true, but I think the big thing is that PlayStation just has more consoles out there. And Larian isn't a huge developer. They make some pretty successful games. You know, Divinity 1 and Divinity 2 are huge. But there's a reason that they do early access for their titles. They don't have the massive backing that you would think they do. So they're just developing for one console, and they're developing for the console that has sold, 10 million more, according to latest reports. So it makes sense. They want to get some more money in their pocket and then move to Xbox. And they always bring their games to Xbox. So, no worries from me. I look forward to it when it comes to the platform. That's my take.
No, that's
anybody else. Sorry.
No, that's good. I didn't want to go too ham on it, and I wanted to kind of get your impressions of what happened there, and that's kind of what I saw too. The thing with the Series S, and I'm like one of the biggest Series S proponents out there. I do most of my gaming on the Series S, even though I have every console, including an X and a PS5 and all that good stuff. But just because of issues, and it just happens to be convenient to me, I'm usually playing on the S, and I love the thing. So I'm not one of the naysayers is what I'm trying to get at here. But the rumblings came from people that are at least somewhat respected. I think Jez was one of the people that was on Twitter saying, hey, I wonder if this is because of the Series S. And a lot of people are asking what I think is a very valid question. It's not meant to incite in-brand console wars or anything like that. It's just kind of it's worth consideration, especially if we're getting to a point now where maybe a feature like this. So we're looking at split screen, like Mikey said, for this game, for Baldur's Gate, is being the potential holdups. My question kind of is would you be opposed to them dropping split screen for the Series S? Because right now, Xbox is kind of famous for having this parity requirement that if you develop it on the Series X, it needs to run on the Series S. The only difference can be resolution and frame rate. Is that the way I understand it anyway, right?
Right.
So obviously if they have split screen on the Series X, they have to do it in the Series S. Well, maybe the Series S isn't having a great time with that, and I wonder if gamers would be upset if because I could see how they would be. The Series S was promised the parity and all that stuff, and that's what you expect if you bought the console and you're not getting it. Yeah, I'd be mad, but what if that means that we're not getting the game at all because they can't make it work? And I'm saying this completely hypothetical. I don't think that's what's going to happen here. But what if we get to a scenario where a developer can't bring their game to Xbox because of the Series S has some kind of weird hiccup, but they could release it on the Series X if they wanted to? Would you guys be upset about that if we got to a situation like that?
No.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be more prevalent. I guess I speak as a Series S and X owner. And I get it that some Series S owners only would be upset with that. I do, and I'm with you too. But the further we get into this generation, and the more power people are going to need for their consoles, that 8 teraflop difference. I think the Series S is a 4 to 5 teraflop machine, and the Series X is a 12. At some point you have to look at it and go, okay, well, some things are going to have to drop. We have to drop more than resolution. We have to drop character load, NPC load in the game. We have to drop this. And if they have to do it, they have to do it to get the game on both consoles. And I think that requirement, the further we get into the generation, might get a little wider or more open to interpretation. I hope.
I firmly believe, and I hate to say this, I think there's going to be a backtrack at some point. I'm kind of with you, and I have kind of a weird view on consoles though, and it's probably really not that popular. But starting with the Xbox One and then the Xbox One X to the Series S and the Series X, well, now we have 4 different types of hardware out there running games, and I think we need to as gamers and maybe Xbox too get to a point where we tell the developers you can develop for whatever you want to, as long as these systems are all supported, as long as we're still rocking the same operating system. And you see this in the phone market. Every now and then there's a really high-end phone title or mobile title that will come out that will only run on the latest iPhone or a top Android device. And obviously older devices these games won't run on. And I think, I don't want to say consoles are going toward mirroring the mobile model, but I think we're at a point now with all these different hardware configurations that they're going to have to give some consideration to maybe walking back the parity requirement that they're asking for. And I think they've kind of created a little bit of a mess here, and it's going to be really interesting to see how this plays out. And like I said, I'm a huge Series S supporter. I still play on the Xbox One sometimes, and I love these games that you can play on all the systems. But if we really want to push the pixels, if we really want to see the bleeding edge games, I think they might have to give here a little bit, and it's not going to be fun if they do that, because there is going to be a lot of backlash. Anthony, where are you at on this?
I mean, I agree with everything you just said. But I mean, that was really well put. I agree with you. I think that there has to come a point soon where that teraflop difference, it's huge, really, in the scope of what can and can't be done. Is it holding the games back? The S, maybe. I can't really give you specific examples.
Well, I mean, you can't, because we're still developing for the Xbox One and last generation too. So the Series S is we're seeing some games that are made kind of new gen only, if you will. But
it'd be interesting to see like Starfield, for example.
Yes.
I think it, like you said, they're gonna, if it can't run on the Series S, what do they do? If it's not acceptably running.
So here's the deal for me, because they're not bringing you brought up Starfield. They're not bringing Starfield to last gen, right?
Thank the Lords.
But take this into consideration. The Xbox One X is nearly identical power to the Xbox Series S.
Yeah.
So you're essentially developing for, and I hate to say this, it's similar to a second gen, last generation system. The hardware refresh. So that's what you're targeting.
The architecture of the One X different though, in the way that it's not got SSD as it, or
right, and it does have. There are better features. Well, I think the Xbox One X did have an SSD, a low end one, if I remember right. Maybe I don't. And there are different features. Like, people go on and on to death about RDNA 2.0. And the full suite of features on the Xbox Series S. But at the end of the day, those are software optimizations and some hardware, and you can only go so far, and a machine is only so powerful, so there has to be a cutoff at some point. But I don't think Series S will ever get dropped entirely. But I do think at some point you need to look at them side by side and go, what is parity? Because having a three times more power output of the Series X, at some point you have to go, okay, well, we have to give this to the X and have to take this away from the S.
The S isn't going away. That's not what we're saying. They're not going to dump the S. We're saying that a very small percentage of games might need to be Series X only at some point, especially as we get closer to the generation's end. But another thing to consider is, as in previous generations, is developers have gotten a lot better at doing tricks of hardware, learning how to get every ounce out of it. So as this generation ages, maybe people will learn how to use the S a little bit better. But as right now, I'm kind of with you guys. Like, I can definitely see a fork in the road where Xbox is going to have a really tough decision because a developer is going to tell them, we can't do it. We tried and we just can't.
You can definitely put games on, look at what they're doing with the Switch. Hogwarts is going to be coming out on the Switch, right? It's just how scaled back is it? Well, where a line is, where is that line where it's like, this is not, it's just not the same game.
Sure. And there's some considerations here. And a lot of people say, well, on my PC, I just turn it down to potato quality and I can run a lot of games I shouldn't be running on my PC. But if I have 2 polygon characters, it goes well enough, and that works. That works in a lot of situations. But there are a lot of games where the bottleneck isn't even all in the GPU or in the graphics. If you get into something like City Skylines, there's a lot of processing going on in the background that isn't visual. It's numbers and data. It's keeping track of all the different denizens and the buildings, and the numbers are going everywhere, you know. And once that city gets really big, that's a whole lot of numbers that it needs to keep track of. So that we're getting into CPU and RAM requirements now. And, you know, it depends where the bottleneck's going to be for the S. I actually don't know for sure. I'm not really super up to date on all the specs and the hardware and where it's going to slow down first, but it seems like certain games are going to kind of bring it to its knees, for lack of a better term.
So here's a good comparison.
Thanks.
And you know, PC to Xbox isn't exactly the same, but I noticed this when Forspoken came out, the minimum requirements to run at 720p, 30 FPS, and keep in mind, you know, PC gamers were complaining because it was kind of ridiculous compared to all other titles, and the same for Returnal when that's coming out. And we're probably going to be seeing a lot of that going forward. But then you look at something like Atomic Heart, and it just runs great on even a potato. So take it with a grain of salt. But Forspoken, the minimum to run at 720p, 50 FPS for AMD was a 5500 XT. Many have said the GPU equivalent of a Series X GPU or Series S, excuse me, is a 5500 XT. So to get Forspoken on a Series S, according to those developers, it's going to be 720p, 30 FPS. But we've seen how that runs on the PlayStation. Didn't do so well. So that's just kind of a bad example, but that's the power equivalency there. So for some of these games coming out down the road that do require that type of power, you're going to see that. And maybe, you know, back full circle, Baldur's Gate is one of those titles. From what I've seen, it's not jaw-dropping, but there's a lot going on CPU-wise.
Sure,
a lot of particle effects and stuff. And
yeah, the visuals are not to like be dismissed. There's some stuff that looks absolutely fantastic from that trailer they showed us, and a lot of it looked in game. Just really nice textures, man. Just really nice textures. All shiny and, you know, just really smooth and look decent to me anyway. So let's kind of turn it over. Let's move on and get past that and get into more madness. We had a meeting in Europe this week. I think that's a good way to put it, where all the big wigs showed up. We had some, you know, Paul Ryan. I don't know. Was Brad Smith was there? I assume Phil Spencer. Yeah, Phil Spencer was there too, because I saw he had a Series S in his room. He tweeted it while he was waiting, and he had that screen on there from Andrew from Upspec Gaming. Our one interview on this show. I was happy for him. I'm like, look at Phil's plugging your product, man.
What a weird PR moment.
Yeah, right.
I'm about to go in the courtroom, guys, but got to get my session.
It really reminded me of like when the Switch first came out, and there were the memes, you know, at Grandma's funeral, but I got my Switch, I'm good to go. You know, it's just that kind of thing. So that's kind of the vibes I got from it too. But anyways, they all got together and they had a little powwow. A lot of it was closed door. We don't know exactly what was said. Brad Smith kept running around with his contract in his hand. He's like, sign it, Sony, sign it, Sony. It's all, you know, it's almost comical at this point. I think we're all starting to lose our mind with the coverage and the story. And I think who will do a better summary? Mikey will do a better summary than I just gave. So why don't you give us your week in review of
last week either? So
yeah,
there's your chance.
The big surprise for me out of this is, you know, coming into it, we knew it was going to be Sony, Xbox, Google was going to be there, NVIDIA, and maybe a couple other people. And so we knew that NVIDIA and Google were also going to be on the side of Sony, whereas Google and NVIDIA may not, you know, they weren't as harsh against it, especially NVIDIA. And then Xbox signs the deal to bring all Xbox games to GeForce Now, and NVIDIA suddenly just like, yeah, remember that thing we said about them having a monopoly on the cloud? Forget about it.
Yeah, we all good.
We're totally on board now. Gotcha.
Those wheels have been greased.
Kind of a mood killer, you know. If you're coming out thinking that this deal is going to be stopped, it's definitely positive news to see that. And that was the big thing to come out of the meeting. You know, otherwise they rehashed a lot of the points that they already have. Not much was released, and I think I haven't seen it, but I heard there was an actual shot, an actual picture of Brad Smith holding up the contract. I don't know if that's true.
Oh, there is. Oh, it's fantastic, man. He like, I actually tried to lift it. I wanted to get the press conference, but I couldn't find it anywhere to get the audio from it. But just the summary of it is just great. He really is, and it wasn't like just one time either. He had that thing like all week. He's like, oh, I got it here. You can sign it with a pen. You can sign it with Microsoft Word. We don't care. Just let's do some business, and. Of course, Sony is just like, thumbs down.
Oh my gosh!
There has been an update tonight, actually, which Kev posted in our Discord, which is a small update. Microsoft says it's offered solutions to the CMA, and this includes a guarantee of 100% parity between PlayStation and Xbox for access to Call of Duty.
This is not reported from Xbox, though.
No,
this is from MLX. If I remember right.
Correct, yeah. Okay. It says 100% parity between PlayStation and Xbox for Call of Duty, as well as legally binding commitments to make the game available to at least 150 million more players on rival consoles and cloud streaming.
Well, they've really established quite the narrative here, and I like the narrative that the story Xbox is telling, if you will, and it's well, you can protect Sony, or you can just put this game out there for everybody to play. We're going to put it on Nintendo. We're going to put it on Nvidia.
There's an actual quote here from Microsoft. The decision now lies with the CMA on whether it will block this deal and protect Sony, the dominant market leader, or consider solutions that make more games available to more players. So it's kind of, they've really sort of put Sony in a...
And did you find that picture, Mikey? I saw you laughing earlier. I didn't mean to cut you off, Anthony.
I did. Into a corner, the back's into a corner now. It's like they're going to be they're either the bad guy or the good guy now.
Before I touch on that, I just want to talk about this photo. I didn't realize that they were in they looked like they're in a college classroom, not even like a big one. They're all on crappy tables with their laptops out, and he's just out giving his like PowerPoint presentation, holding the contract. Right, yeah. There's even a giant little sign that just says 150 million, and that's all it says.
Yeah,
and there's a pie chart of PlayStation and Xbox on the other side, and it's almost just like, I didn't realize that they were reiterating these talking points so harsh, even in closed door meetings. It's almost comical. I am laughing, so it is funny.
It's the big points, though, right? It's the things that you think would be obvious, but we keep talking about every week, which we're like, what? How is it not obvious that this is, like the market share, right? PlayStation 80%. In Japan, it's 96%, is it?
Yeah, and it's, I think, 70-30 worldwide, which obviously it's closer in the United States, which is what keeps that number down.
Having that on that board there, looking at, I know we're laughing about it, but it just shows how ridiculous it is that it's been overlooked or it's not been taken.
Well, there's a couple of things here, and one of them, first of all, is that I'm not sure if that was a board that was displayed at that meeting. I did see a report that at first they were going to come out with a discrepancy with PlayStation being so much more successful than Xbox based on the numbers, but they pulled that in favor of the board that showed we want to bring this to 150 million more players, which is a much more positive message. So I think that was a last second pull there.
Pictures are from the press conference which they held after the meet at the end of the day, which they held. It was a press conference.
Okay.
That wasn't
the press conference was held in a hotel lobby, and I was following.
That you're looking at.
Yeah, following a lot of people that were waiting for him to come out, and that's exactly how they displayed it. So
I thought that was the European Commission.
No.
I was like, wow, that's terrible.
That was not the closed door meeting.
That would be bad.
Like, that's the room they got for this meeting? Holy crap.
It's just a $69 billion meal. They're having it in a McDonald's in Germany somewhere. It's
but you're right, this NVIDIA thing. I mean, one of the bigger objections was the cloud, right? The monopoly on the cloud. But this NVIDIA thing, it just negates that whole objection.
I feel like the CMA was pressing the cloud angle more than the EU, but I might be a little mistaken on that. The CMA seems to be a little bit of a tougher domino to make fall in this line of approvals that Microsoft needs to get this deal approved. But I think the feeling is that the case that they're making with the EU is as convincing as they can be. They're like, we will do everything, except for tonight. We found out that they did not offer 10-year parity for every Activision Blizzard game for PlayStation moving forward, which some people thought they would, but they haven't gone.
Well, that's the thing. did they not? Because it doesn't. The new report doesn't explicitly say that they didn't. I'd be interested if they did. To me, that's a big wow.
It's really hard. In Microsoft, and I think Brad Smith again is on record as saying that they don't know what the market's going to look like in 10 years. And a lot of people took that as a great time to pile on Xbox and be like, oh, well, they're not going to be in the consoles in 10 years. And that's not what he was saying. And he's saying that, are we going to have a different console cycle? Are we going to be primarily cloud gaming? That we don't know. They don't even know. And they're the people leading the way, right? But it's just kind of a interesting angle on all of this. So to sign a 10-year contract and not know what you're going to be doing, it seems almost absurd to me, but I guess that's what's being asked of them.
Here's a hypothetical. So, in 10 years, Xbox they say they'll keep Call of Duty on PlayStation, which I think they should. But in that time, PlayStation's allowed to make a competing game. They can come out swinging with, I guess they wouldn't use Bungie, but they could fall back on
SOCOM. Let's do SOCOM.
SOCOM. They could fall back on Killzone, Resistance, or they can create an entirely new IP. And they could make it a very COD-like system, and then they could push that on their own platform.
Well,
say they make it within 5 years, and then they could push that for 5 years, all while Xbox is forced to keep it on PlayStation.
And they don't have to bring their whatever they cooked up, like SOCOM, for example. Go ahead.
Somewhat related. So the Sony have basically alluded to the fact that they think third-party games like Call of Duty fund their first-party titles.
I totally believe that.
They've alluded to, if this deal goes through, there may not be any more Sony first-party games.
I think that was a bit of an exaggeration.
The rumor is that they offered them the same discount that Activision currently is, so they'd still get their current split. And that's the big thing. They don't just get the base 30-70 split. Sony's not just keeping 30. It's something higher that they're getting from Activision currently, which is another big reason they're against this, is because they want more money. And the rumor is that Microsoft offered that to them, which is terrific. I think that's very generous.
Sorry, more money for. Just clarify what you mean. More money for what? For which?
So you bring a third party brings their game to a platform, Xbox, PlayStation. The standard split that everyone's known about for a long time, including on Steam, and one of the things that Epic was very good at, they lowered that split. Was that the platform holder gets 30% of the revenue, and the actual developer gets 70%.
Right.
Apparently, Sony was getting a higher percentage for Call of Duty. What that is, if that's been published, I don't know. I haven't seen it. But they were getting a discount. They were getting more money in their pockets. So when they say that it helps develop first-party titles, when you're making, let's just throw out 40%, let's say. When you're getting 40% of what did Call of Duty make within the first month, like $1 billion or something?
A gazillion, I think.
And let's just say 60% of that went to PlayStation. So they're getting, 40% of 600 million. Of course, that's going back into funding first-party titles. So they're not lying when they say that. That actually makes a lot of sense.
That makes sense, and what Sony said makes sense. I think that what got picked up was somebody's tweet, though, and this is where it gets a little crazy. They made it sound like Sony is not going to be able to make any first-party games if COD is taken away from them, and that's not what they're saying. They just said it diminishes the money they have to put into developing them. Obviously, they're not going to abandon God of War or all these popular franchises that they already have cooked up. So Sony's not going to go bankrupt without Call of Duty, but it would hurt them, and it might hurt their first-party development. So, yeah.
So then flip it to the other side is the big news story in the last few days is that there's a lot of rumors that if the deal doesn't go through, the Xbox will be in trouble, or Xbox will be for sale, which has caused Phil Spencer to come out and deny this and say Xbox is going to be no matter what.
That must be really hard for Phil, because it's so stupid that you almost don't want to give it any validity by responding to it. And I'm not saying it's impossible or out of the realm of possibility, but it's not something that I think is any kind of near-term conclusion to the Xbox brand as we know it. And it reminds me of the same people that we've been saying this for a long time with Xbox. People have been saying they're going to get out of consoles. They just want to be a service. They're going to give up. And, and they're still here, aren't they? They're still making consoles. They're pushing forward. I would say they're the most innovative out of the big three, out of Nintendo, Sony,
it's
and
the third highest revenue stream within the Microsoft.
Yeah.
I would say as a services company, they're the most innovative.
Okay, that's fair because their controllers haven't changed in 4 generations, but
right. I actually think the haptic feedback can be cool on PlayStation while I turn Rumble off. There's things that other developers do that are pretty sweet, but man, the services point is nailed by Xbox in my opinion. So sorry.
A lot of people pointing to different services that he's put, invested a lot in and then sold off or got rid of, like Mixer, signing up, people. So $50 million.
Mixer was losing money.
Wasn't successful.
Yeah,
there was
Windows Phone. Windows Phone was losing money. Like all these things lost money. Xbox isn't losing money. That's all I'm trying to say. I didn't mean to talk over you.
And at least they pushed it for years, unlike Google that, they let everything die pretty quickly, although Stadia was like their longest running failing project. Yeah. But Xbox isn't going anywhere. And even if it does, who do they sell to? I saw Twitter fanboys, which is actually all this toxicity actually made me quit Twitter for the time being. So I'm basically totally off of it unless I get linked to story. People were like, oh man, Microsoft should sell Xbox to Sony. And it's like, these are the same people saying that they shouldn't buy Activision.
Right. That's the same take I have. I'm like, you got to be out of your, like, at least try to ground yourself in some kind of like logical, position when you're commenting on these things. So there isn't anybody that Microsoft could sell Xbox to that I believe that could afford them and that wouldn't raise the same monopoly concerns that we get with Microsoft buying Activision, like Mikey just pointed out. So Tencent, nope. Nintendo, they don't want them. Nintendo's fine. Sony, it doesn't even make sense. But even if they did, it would raise all kinds of like anti-competitive issues. So, I guess the ultimate doomsday scenario here would be Microsoft pulling the rug out from under Xbox. Like we just talked about Zune, Mixer, WinPhone, and a host of other products over the years. But you don't do that when a product's making 10% of your company's revenue, and that's what Xbox represents. So people were like, well, PlayStation selling twice as much. It doesn't matter. Xbox is very profitable. It's a successful brand.
Like you say, it's a platform now, isn't it? It's not a console anymore. It's a platform.
Yeah.
Cloud.
And a lot of people.
And you mentioned Nintendo then, and Mike said that they'd signed a deal with Nintendo to. And there was something we didn't talk about last week, but they mentioned bringing Xbox games to Nintendo Switch. Right, but we know that. Do you think that means they're going to port them, or do you think it's an allude to that Game Pass is going to cloud streaming is going to happen on Switch?
Some people speculated cloud streaming for the Switch, and I think first of all we need to see what the contract says. We talked about parity earlier, and these types of things. Well, the regulators are going to be real concerned about the details because that's where the devil is, as they say, right? So and depending on how they can do it, obviously Call of Duty running on the Switch, everybody's like, I don't think that's going to work very well, but we've seen games with great optimization that run just fine. We've seen Call of Duty running on the Series S at frame rates it has no business doing, and they're very, very great development team.
He didn't say Call of Duty, did he? If you read the wording of that press release or that statement, he said bringing Xbox games to Nintendo Switch. Interesting. Again,
I'll be interested in what what it says on whatever contract they sign. And they did sign, right? This is a signed agreement pending the acquisition. So you know what? That'd be good to look into. I don't know. Do we have that information available to us?
I haven't seen anything other than the announcement that
I haven't seen anything to the sub.
The fact that they said bringing Xbox games, I'm like, well, Switch you can't run Xbox games on Switch. Like you just said, then maybe if you pair them right back, well, that's extra development. Think of the development work involved in porting over to Switch per title, and it's like the easy way is that Nintendo allow xCloud, right? And then you just fire your Switch up and stream everything.
Well, sure, and that's a possibility if Nintendo would do that. I don't know if that makes sense to them or not. It's I think I keep going back to this being one of the most interesting console generations. In 4 or 5 cycles, as far as I'm concerned. There's a lot of questions that we just don't have answers to, and I really do want to kind of progress through this, just like everybody else. I want to get through this deal and see where we come out on the other side. How's this all going to shake out, and who's going to have what games and how's it going to move forward. So it's really interesting. Welcome. Okay, I'm going to try your name. Hold on. Quintanamore 115.
Yeah, you got it right.
Oh yeah.
I saw the name here, Rise Tarnished. Some more content.
Yeah.
What does that entail for Elden Ring? Is that just the arena DLC or?
Oh
No, there is a big expansion pack coming.
Really?
They announced that they're working on it.
I think today they just announced it.
Any release date yet, or just announcement? No. Okay.
No,
it only got announced this morning. I think.
12
hours ago.
In years past with like Dark Souls 2, Dark Souls 3, and even Bloodborne stuff, there were smaller, more linear games, and we got expansion packs like later that year. This being an open world title, I think they're going big on the DLC too, which is
they're definitely gonna go big. I'm not really a Dark Souls fan myself. However, my buddy, he fucking loves those games. He completed Elden Ring like 19 times within 2 months.
That's hardcore, man. I know some people really fell in love with it. So yeah, we just got the news today. They pretty much just told us that they have something cooking. It would be insane for them not to develop any kind of content for this game. So you see how it sold so many millions of copies. So we don't have the details yet, but we'll be excited to see them coming out, and as many people will. So that was pretty much the news story, though. Just that it's happening. That's all we got for details.
Awesome.
Well, thanks so much.
You. That's all.
Yeah, no, thanks for coming up. We're glad to have you. So you take care, and if you want to leave a comment, we'll throw you some Reddit Premium too for coming up and sharing with us.
Oh yeah, sure.
Go ahead, drop it below. We'll get you. So you take care.
Yeah, you too.
That's I'm about to get back to that. It wasn't really there wasn't a lot of details to the story, but obviously it's a huge story. Elden Ring is a game of the year.
I like to believe that it's a secret sequel to Shadow of Mordor. Shadow of the Erd Tree. There's a joke going around about that. So, hopefully Sauron is one of the bosses.
I'm in on this now. Now I'm even more excited. That sounds like a good system to me. So, let's kick through some more of the news here, since our guest kind of got us going, and let's talk about Halo Infinite Season 3. I don't think anybody up here is still playing Halo, are they? Not out of hate, but just.
I was a big Halo, pushing it big, wasn't I?
You were
playing that, but I've not played it for a month or two now. I think the winter update, I fired it up, and then it's kind of dropped off. I've been playing other things. It's lost my interest a little.
Sure.
Go on, Mike.
I was gonna say I played it in January.
All right. That's pretty recent. That's within a month.
I had a buddy that sent me a screenshot of his practice drill score on the sniper challenge. And he's like, nobody can beat me. He sent it to a bunch of my friends.
Oh.
I downloaded it on PC and then beat it by 40 points on purpose. And then sent the screenshot back in. It was like 64,040 points or something. And I never heard back from him.
Did you ever do the campaign on court with your wife? Like you said, you were holding out for.
No, only because we haven't gotten through the rest. Our plan is to do the rest of Halo, and now that it's one of the reasons she recently moved her computer into her room. We are gonna do Halo 2 this weekend.
All right.
It's a great multiplayer is great, and this update they've released on the Echoes one. I'll definitely fire it up and get back on it and have a go. But the shine has worn off for me personally at this point.
Yeah,
it's
Well, they've abandoned the single player, for lack of a better term, which is really off-putting to a lot of people. I know multiplayer is still pretty big, but the multiplayer feels like a gas. Games as a service, and the seasons have been way too long to start to date anyway. I think one of the good things about Season 3 is I think it's going to be locked to 3 months. You have your 100-tier battle pass and some new maps. And, this is what people said that they should have had going from the start. And you guys kind of make the point that is it too late for this? And I don't necessarily think it's too late. I think we're going to have, people get a little tired of Call of Duty at some point, and maybe they'll come back looking for other shooters. For me personally, I fell into Overwatch 2 really hard, and that was it for Halo in my playlist. Yeah. I have room for one shooter like that, one multiplayer shooter, and I've been having a good time over there. So it's going to be really hard for Halo to win back a lot of people who have looked elsewhere.
think that's exactly what it is. Playtime is limited, and it's too little, too late for me. It's like it's taken too long to get to this point where they're releasing good content.
Yeah, when I am playing...
and you move on, you play other things. You know, they're releasing some of the Forge maps. User Forge maps are now in there on rotation. Which
that's a good idea. Cool. I mean, it's a good. Cool. Yeah, this is a good season and a good update by almost all accounts. But we get into the conversation about, like you were saying, has it lost its shine? Is it too late? And that kind of stuff. And I guess time will tell. They obviously have big new game modes and secret projects revolving around Halo that I think we'll hear about probably sooner than later. I would definitely expect before the year is out for sure. After Starfield and maybe some of those other big guns drop. So we talked about Hogwarts Legacy. It has earned $850 million. It sold more than 12 million units in its first 2 weeks, which is absurd. It is a huge success, and that's why Mikey was kind of saying
this gen, right? That's only this. It's not released yet on.
Nope, didn't make it to last gen
consoles.
If I was waiting for it on last gen and saw that delay, I might be thinking about getting a new gen console or looking at something else to play, because it's definitely a red flag as far as I'm concerned. But as Mikey said, it's a good reason that it might make Game of the Year conversations. When you sell that many copies of a game, it's hard to ignore it. So we had a user come by last week and they were like, hey, I made an app. And they're like, can we share this? And we were like, well, sure. Come back on Sunday when we have a Sunday fun day, we call it, and we can share user created content. And this app is just kind of a white noise app, just kind of chill and relaxing. It's open source. You can get the code and the developer will share it with you. The kid's name was Kid Genius, I believe. And he must be a kid genius because he's crafting Xbox apps. And it was really well received by the community. 1,800 upvotes. He was kind enough to answer some questions, and can't wait to see what comes next from him. I love creative and innovative people, especially at a young age, that just dive in and go full geek like on something like that with a little side project, and that can be the catalyst to something even bigger. So we will be keeping tabs on that user, and that was really nice of him to share it with us. I think this one kind of goes over to Mikey. He's played Deathloop and he enjoyed it. They made 5 million players. I think that's a pretty good total for a game like Deathloop.
Great total.
I think that's actually severely more people need to play it.
I hear you there when we were talking about 12 million for Hogwarts and in 2 weeks, and Deathloop's been out for a while now, but it's kind of a polarizing game, I feel. Some people didn't really like it, but some people loved it. So it kind of depends.
It's a slow paced game. You get into it, you think it's this first person action game that you're just going to go balls to the wall, and it's really not. It's a stealth based, explorative, like figure stuff out, and the entire game itself is a puzzle as you interweave these timelines to figure out how you're going to assassinate everyone in one day. So it's a lot of fun, but it's got to be your type of game too. It's not Call of Duty.
I thought it was tough. For me, it was. I didn't find it an easy game.
Oh, it's
That's
not.
All.
It was, there was times that you go to retread something, especially if you're an achievement hunter like you and me. But you just can't. You can't bash through it. You got to just slow up.
Yeah.
Breathe, and that got to be annoying sometimes. But that's the game you sign up for. I loved it. I give it a 8.5 out of 10.
Yeah, that's a really good score.
5 million people need to play it. If there's 25 million Game Pass subscribers, I think 25 million people should have tried it at least.
Yeah, I'm actually. You make a good point. I mean, that's an impressive number. It really is. But that's maybe it deserved more.
I would say I would have expected. It sounds great at 5 million, but now you say that it is on Game Pass. I forgot it was on Game Pass. I would have thought more people would have tried it at least.
Well, I mean,
even if they don't play it, they fire up the game. They're still on the stats for firing up the game, right? Downloading it.
Yeah,
it's not more than 5 million.
Yeah, and Game Pass is a weird thing for stuff like that. When you do achievement hunting, you guys probably know better than I do, and you play a game that's on Game Pass, like every achievement is ultra rare because a lot of people, Game Pass is a demo service. Yeah. They play an hour of game and they're like, oh, I'm out. And then you get the first achievement in this game and it's just like, whoa, only 2% of the people have walked around the first block of the game. Like, wow, man, either nobody liked this or, but it's just people, that's what Game Pass does to you. So go ahead.
I was going to just add, I also forgot it's actually on PlayStation Premium too. and it's a PC title. So $5 million actually isn't a lot.
Well, when that many people have access to it, yeah, you make a good point there. But I think it's a game that it's not going to be a game that draws people in like Hogwarts. You know, it's a different premise, and it doesn't have that big IP to really get people to be like, oh man, I want to just check out and see what that's about. You know, you either have to be familiar with the gameplay or the developer, or you might not even understand it. So EA asked fans if they are interested in more Dead Space remakes, and this is another no-brainer moment, right? Like,
yes, we are.
Why do you have to ask? I think were most of the comments on that post when it was added to the subreddit. Like, of course, the game just sold like gangbusters. It reviewed well, and no, we don't want any more of that. There was a little pushback though. People were kind of tired of remakes. That whole angle. Why not develop something new? But I think there's a balance to be struck there. Nostalgia is very powerful, and as somebody like I've been playing through the Final Fantasy VII remake, I'm very happy that that's a thing, as it's been great experiencing that story again.
Well, here's my deal with it.
Yeah, give it to us.
I used to be absolutely in love with Visceral Studios. Glenn Schofield was the head. EA is the reason that they tanked the franchise and tanked Visceral. They kind of, from what I've heard in the past, is they kind of forced Dead Space 3 to be that co-op game that it was, and Dead Space 3 to me is the weakest out of the three. Dead Space 2 is good. Dead Space 3 turns into this action game, in my opinion. So it's weird that they would push those remakes that kind of killed the franchise.
It's kind of the like Mass Effect when they got hold of the Mass Effect studio, right, and the BioWare, and then what was the last Mass Effect?
Mass Effect Andromeda. I thought you were going to talk about the ending of 3, and I was going to go on a rant.
No.
Careful. Tread carefully.
Is one of my favorites. You know, I loved Mass Effect, but the Andromeda was just it didn't work for me.
Why did anybody like Andromeda? I didn't like that one, but I haven't really heard too much good about it.
Saying about they got hold of Visceral and it changed the whole setup.
So I would rather see a sequel, but and maybe even strike up what is their name? Striking Distance Studios is now the new Glenn Schofield. Contract them to make Dead Space 4. Because I think if Glenn had the Dead Space franchise back, he could treat it like his baby. Because you could tell when you play Callisto Protocol, it's melee focused and it tries to be totally different in its combat from Dead Space, whereas Dead Space had all these cool guns and systems he had built up over the years with his development studio. And I'd love to see them have their hands in the franchise again. I think that would be really cool. So make EA, I would like to write in an answer, make Dead Space 4 and get Striking Distance to do it. Whatever their name is again, I forget it. I always confuse with Sucker Punch lately too.
It makes sense. That's all that matters.
Yeah.
That pretty much rolls on exactly to the next point I see on the sheet of Gears of War 2 is asking if they'd like Cliffy B to come back.
Yeah, specifically. Yeah, Josh,
like you just said then about if the original developer's passion is going to come through, isn't it? It's like you see that come through in the product, and then Cliffy B for me is Gears of War.
He's just a great guy. He's a great Twitter follow. He's the perfect amount of arrogant to me. He's just like a good gaming character. Like he's a little arrogant, but he knows that he can flex it a little bit because he's the Gears guy.
Talks about his wife.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, he's a great Twitter follow. I enjoy his takes. And this question was asked by Joshua Ortega, who's currently connected with Gears and some other games too. But he just did a poll. He's like, would you like to see the legend Cliff B return to Gears? Let me hear it. 85% of people said hell yeah, and 14% of people said don't know. Those were the only options. So I'm a hell yeah person. I love Cliffy B. I would love to see him kind of come back to where it started for him. He tried some other projects. It was Lawbreakers. Was that the? I forget
the. Mikey about Lawbreakers.
I'm sorry, I don't want to talk to Mikey about Lawbreakers, but
I didn't play it.
Okay,
it's unfortunate. He constantly gets people going, "Oh, how successful is Lawbreakers?"
Yeah, it is.
It's unfortunate timing against Overwatch. But I would love to see him back. I mean, especially with Rod Ferguson gone, and he's been gone for some years now, working on Diablo at Blizzard. I would love to see Cliff Bleszinski, the original creator of this baby, come back. He's made some terrific titles. The other one was I'm forgetting it now. Bulletstorm.
Oh wow, forgot about that.
He's got that angle that I think could return with Gears, but then it's like, you have to question it. Look at Corey. I'm going to say this name wrong. Corey Balrog and what he did with God of War, versus what David Jaffe would have done. The original creator of 1 and 2, and how that series totally changed. And we've talked about the fact that Gears could use a God of War treatment, a reimagining. And I know for a lot of multiplayer purists, that's not a good thing to hear. And I get you, I feel you. But I think the series does need a reimagining. And could Cliff Bleszinski do that? I don't know. So that is also the other part of bringing somebody back. Would it go back to its roots or go back in a new angle? But I would love to see Cliff back, because I just think he's the one that would probably be the most passionate.
I think he would. And we were talking about as a Twitter follow, well, sometimes he goes into the art and the characters and the monsters. He talks about how they are created. He talks about what he didn't like with some of the directions that they went with the later Gears games that he wasn't involved in, and how he would have done it differently. And I think that passion's still there. And I think he's secretly kind of, maybe I'm misreading his tweets. I think so. I think a little bit, sure. Man. It just who would want to come back to that glory?
Yeah.
And it better be him holding a lancer in his announcement post that I'm back, baby.
Can we get Major Nelson? Can we get Larry in there with him? He has that famous photo with the Gears Lancer.
Please.
I want them side by side like Charlie's Angels, and I'm just going to stop now. So let's move on to Fallout New Vegas Remastered. Would be awesome, says Obsidian. And it's not the first time they've said this, but anytime they talk about it, people freak out because everybody loves Fallout New Vegas. This was a bigger part of a bigger interview, but this is what people kind of focused in on. So I don't even have to ask you guys, would you be interested in a Fallout New Vegas Remastered, since we're on the remastered kick?
No.
He says no.
I'd rather see them make a new Fallout game.
Me too.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. It's like, we just talked about it. It's like, how many? It's just remaster, isn't it? All the time now. Or I don't know.
I have the Dead Space remaster sitting. People are going to hate me. It's unwrapped right now, only because so many other games have been coming out on Game Pass, but it's unwrapped on my, because I've played it before. I will get to it.
Right.
It's slow in the summer, and I mainly pre-ordered it for the helmet that I got. Which still hasn't arrived. That takes an extra couple months after the game it comes out. I didn't know that. But a remaster is a remaster. Some of them are great and I love them, but not for me. I would rather see a sequel, and I'd rather see what Obsidian could do now rather than have them retread on what they've done.
And I don't want to. I need to be careful here too. I know a lot of people really love Fallout New Vegas, but it's not even my favorite Fallout entry. And I know it is for a lot of people, but what is? You know what? I liked 3 and I liked 4. And obviously the first 2 are kind of completely different games. So I would take 3 and 4 over New Vegas. And I know that's...
You would take 4?
I love 4, dude. I love 4, man. Anytime I say it, I know that I'm in for it. But I love the base building. I love the 3 distinct endings. I loved the characters. Like, a lot of people said it was too linear, and that's where we go back to Fallout New Vegas, where it was more of a role playing game. Your decisions that you made had real impact on the story. More than these like 3 predetermined endings. You could do a lot of different stuff, different towns, and different setups, and I understand the love for that. But I too would like to see them expand on that rather than rehash it. So don't write me any hate mail. I know that Fallout New Vegas is really beloved.
The big contentious point for me is how, like, if you look at Fallout 4, how kind of generic a lot of this stuff is. Like how they broke down the dialogue system. They made it say, like, you'd press Y for happy, and then he'd give this happy response that may not even come across as being happy.
That happened for sure.
And the perk system was also, it was like +5 to shotgun damage, whereas Obsidian, they do some goofy stuff. They don't just do stat boosting. They build their games and their perk systems and stuff around some interesting stuff beyond adding shotgun damage. So that's what I love about Obsidian. And I actually got super stoked because I just found out I didn't realize they were making a next gen update for Outer Worlds. I totally forgot about that.
Yeah, that's big news this week. Actually, we probably should have covered that.
Well, we're covering it now.
We are.
Because I've been really wanting to play Outer Worlds, and I've talked about it a couple times, and that's gonna be my next playthrough for an RPG once I beat Atomic Heart and Hogwarts Legacy.
Loved everything about Outer Worlds except for the combat, which felt really weird to me. The gunplay was, I can't even really describe it. It felt very kind of loose or not. I didn't feel really connected to the gunplay like I did in other games, and I don't know if that's something that got better after release because I played it very, very early on in the release. But I would like to go back to that world because in spite of that, everything else about the game I loved. I liked the characters, I liked the development, and it gave me that New Vegas kind of feel with the decisions that you make, and you can. I have different outcomes and like all the different small stories had different kind of outcomes. It felt like as opposed to just the big change at the end. So that was a good thing to bring up.
You have to pay for it though. It's not free.
Oh,
yeah,
it's not free.
They've announced that it's not free, which is hurts quite a few people. Everybody seems to expect free stuff.
Well, I mean, the upgrade things, I'd get that, but I think that it not being free, I think I saw somebody comment, well, that fits the game just fine because of the corporate.
See, there are three different levels. There's CD Projekt that comes out with free updates, and I get that. There's Microsoft will do incremental updates, especially between console generations. They'll update it, which is terrific, and that should be done. This is years apart. What has it been now? 4 years?
Way. Really?
Yeah, and they're only charging $10. The one that gets me is if you jump to the next console generation, like the one that really bummed me out was some of. I'm not trying to dog on PlayStation, but they're the best example I can come up with, or even Activision, where they would charge $10 for the next gen version.
Mm-hmm.
They go from the PlayStation 4 to PlayStation 5, charge $10. Or Call of Duty charges $10 extra for the next gen version. That to me is kind of asinine. When they're releasing at the same time, but years apart, these are development resources, and they're only asking for $10 on top of the original purchase price. I'm for it. I get that. That seems reasonable to me, and something I'm willing to pay for, especially when it's something I can just, I have, and I don't technically own the game, so I'm gonna get it on. Well, actually, I think I do, because it wasn't on Game Pass at first. But I'm gonna pay the extra $10, and even if I don't have it on Game Pass and I don't technically own the game, but I'm still gonna buy that expansion, the next gen update for $10 to Game Pass, just like I bought the premium for Horizon 5. I think it's worth it.
Yeah, it's not, especially if they put some effort into upgrading things or additional story content, and I think there might be a little bit of all that here in this case. So let's take it up to the next story, shall we? I don't like this story not because anything in particular about the numbers or anything, but we're going to talk about sales numbers. And the Xbox Series has sold 18.5 million consoles versus PlayStation 5's 30 million, according to a new report. Let me click on and get the source for you here. It was Ampere, who are well-known market analysts, and especially as far as it goes to video games. But the reason I don't like this is because nobody really knows. They have all the kind of educated guesses in the world, and they can look at retail data. There's other discrepancies too when you talk about sold-in units as opposed to units that have reached consumers. A lot of times we'll get shipping numbers where the units have been shipped to the store, but then another person to report only if it's been sold to a consumer from that point. And it really hasn't been too big of a concern with the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X because they've been selling so quickly. But I guess the point I'm trying to make here is that we kind of have estimates. We know that PlayStation's doing a little bit better, but when people give really exact and precise numbers, they don't really have them. The only people that have those numbers are Microsoft and Sony, unless they choose to release them to us. And the only person that you're going to be able to trust with numbers is Microsoft or Sony, because nobody has the data that they do. So all that said, how do you feel Xbox is doing based on the numbers that were given here, 18.5 million versus 30 million for PlayStation worldwide.
I think earlier somebody used the term Xbox is now a platform. I think that was you, Anthony.
Yeah.
And, you know, I don't shy away from the fact that I do a lot of my Xbox gaming on PC. I do a ton of it. Probably 90% of my gaming is on PC, and I'm a huge Xbox advocate.
Yeah.
But that's because I've bought into the whole platform idea.
Right.
And, you know, one of the sub headlines in this, you know, even though it says Xbox Series XS has sold 18.5 million versus PlayStation 5's 30, the sub headline is, but Microsoft's share of the gaming market, combining hardware, content, and subscriptions, grew. So they're gaining market share in other areas. And it's, you know, I'm one of those people. I've bought into the PlayStation or the PC ecosystem. You know, I'm signed up for Ultimate so I can play it on both Xbox and PC. Xbox is really trying to grow beyond. Their bread and butter is still on Xbox, and has been, and probably will remain that way for the foreseeable future. But there's also a lot of people that buy into that PC market. I have a couple friends that don't have an Xbox, but they're on the PlayStation, or they're on the PlayStation, the PC app. So, you know, it's one of those things, a little bit of good, a little bit of bad. But compared to where Xbox One was, it's a W.
It's a big W, and there's certain concessions we have to make here. Japan's a really tough market to crack. Europe has been a tough market to crack outside of a few countries for Xbox. So internationally, yeah, they're still kind of a little bit on the struggle bus, but it doesn't mean Xbox is failing. It doesn't mean that Xbox is going to go under, as we talked about people with the rumors about selling off the brand and that kind of stuff, or just wiping it. Like, Xbox is still making a ton of money and doing very well. And you said you play a lot on PC. I've been playing a lot of cloud gaming this generation. I play on my phone. I play on my laptop. Well, look at the games I'm playing, like Darkest Dungeon and stuff. They're not Twitch games, you know, for the most part. So they play very well on cloud. But even the Twitch games play pretty okay on cloud. I was able to play Terraria very well. One night I was playing Overwatch on my phone through cloud gaming. Streaming. This is console streaming because this obviously isn't a Game Pass title, but it's still. I was winning matches, and like my daughter was playing in the other room, and she's like, "You're playing on your phone? I can't believe it." I'm like, "It's working incredibly well, you know." Depending on your network and that kind of stuff. So I guess I'm kind of falling into Mikey's camp here. You're right. It's not just the console anymore, but a lot of people are really quick to use it as a point to Xbox's detriment. They're like, "Oh, I mean, they're obviously abandoning the console." That seems to be where this argument always leads to, and I'm not sure that necessarily is the case. And I kind of hate the people that jump to that lane so quickly, because I think hardware is still very important to Xbox's vision of the future. They're very much on record as saying that it's a part of the pie. They see Xbox as a platform, like Anthony brought up and Mikey reaffirmed there. Yeah, go ahead.
Not long ago, they stopped releasing sales numbers, right? They said their internal KPIs weren't based around unit sales. It was
and I mean that
was, and
they haven't released numbers in a really long time. Yeah. Like, I don't think they did all of last gen. Right.
It's about live subscribers and Game Pass Ultimate subscriptions, and that's how you're going to measure success going forward.
Well, it's a part of it.
I mean, if these numbers, you know, how much internally do these numbers matter to Microsoft? You know, when they're measuring against the different KPI, you know, but subscribers to services.
I mean, I think the only number that really matters to Microsoft is dollars in the end, and you know, it's all. Yeah, if you're performing well, you're making money, things are good. So, and that's not saying negatively. That's just how any business operates, you know. So we've almost done it. We're getting kind of toward the end of the news here. I should ask you guys: is there anything that I didn't get into the news notes that maybe you wanted to touch on?
There is something that I've seen I wanted to tell Mikey about, but there's Chris Carlo, who runs Idea Xbox. Is looking into a game that's come out, I've been ported over, where you can get 1,000 G by doing nothing. You just fire the game up and leave it for 16 minutes, and you get the 1,000 G. So it's called Abs Animals, AABS Animals. Mikey's going looking how much it is.
No, I'm actually kind of dumbfounded. That's
So
They finally found a game that's so easy that they're gonna put their foot down.
It's easier than Avatar: The Last Airbender. So it said it's been brought to his attention, and he's going to take a look at this game. I'm wondering if this is going to sound some kind of change in the rules, or as in, have these guys it's the straw that broke the camel's back kind of thing? Because a lot of people are complaining about achievements and
I hope it does.
How they've been belittled and all meaning's been taken away from them. People calling for like the platinum trophy, equivalent.
Right. It's kind of garbage. Some other way. I mean, I don't think anybody is really like, oh, that's a good idea. That's quality. Nobody likes it. So I'm glad that they're looking at it. And I think Mikey is too.
It says the content is just to keep looking at kittens. If you stay long enough, achievements start to pop.
Nice.
To unlock the full 1,000, all you do is leave the game running for 16 minutes.
As someone has 29,000 gamer score this month because of cheap games like that, I agree. Although that's too easy. I played a game called Rusty Gun or Rust Gun because it was $3. But it took me an hour and a half, 2 hours still, which that's easy. But I tried doing a Ballutron. There's a game called Ballutron, and there's 1,600 people on the leaderboard on True Achievements, and I did it on a second account just to see how fast I could do it. And I'm the fourth ranked person all time now. I'm a top Ballutron player because it took me 10 minutes, and that includes my idle time at the main menu. Some of these are too easy. It is an issue. It's one that me and Anthony have definitely taken advantage of.
Well, I think it could be fixed. It could be fixed by bringing in the platinum, doing the platinum trophy equivalent where everybody gets platinum for. Well, no, that still doesn't work, does it? Because
it does if those games aren't deemed platinum worthy.
There you go.
There are games like that on PlayStation that don't have platinum trophies.
All the Chiral Soft games makes me sad.
They only have like bronze trophies and stuff. They don't have platinum trophies. These equivalent games on PlayStation, and I think that would be a terrific thing.
So they could have like a threshold where it's like unless you meet this criteria, you don't get the platinum attached to your game. So the platinums would be for what? For non-Ratalaika games, for example.
Yeah, there's just some games where they just don't have a platinum, and
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
most indie games don't come out with platinums because most of them are stupid easy to get. They're not, they're 1 to 2 hour sagas, or even sometimes less than that. I've seen people that can open the game and you can just spam Y to restart the level. What is that called? Butterfly.
Yeah, Butterfly.
And you can get 4,000 gamer score that way.
Yeah.
It's something that deserves attention, and why I would love a platinum equivalent to deem those games as being worthy on your profile. Like my completion of Kingdom Come is worth 4 times less than Butterfly, and Kingdom Come took me 3 or 4 days to finish, whereas Butterfly took me 5 minutes.
Yeah, I'm still a big fan of the badge system. I wish they would just give you almost like a merit badge for completing games, and it's pretty much identical to a platinum thing, but you could display it on your profile. Like everybody has ideas about this. A few years ago, they said they were reworking the achievement system, and radio silence. Nothing happened.
They announced that it was a full big knew it was going to be a complete overhaul.
Yeah, a rework. Yeah,
it was Mike. What was his name? I can never pronounce his name. Mike.
Ybarra.
Yeah. Then he got moved on, didn't he? To some.
I think he's over on Blizzard again, isn't he? I can't keep track, man. People go between Microsoft and Blizzard all the time.
I have a quote from him that saying that he was being overhauled, and that, like you said, that was 3 years ago or more.
No, I mean, obviously something else came up that was more important, and I guess maybe someday we'll learn about it. Maybe they'll put out a documentary and tell us all about it. So I did want to give props and mention that Vampire Survivors won Action Game of the Year at the DICE Awards, which is the developer conference. Got some pretty high praise, and it's kind of controversial because we're all familiar with Vampire Survivors, I think, at this point, and to be Action Game of the Year is saying quite a bit. The competition was Pretty steep. I forgot the nominees already. You guys don't by chance remember them, do you?
No.
That's
Sorry,
okay.
I've not seen the
That's
show.
okay. We just want to say congratulations to Vampire Survivors. I think it deserved it. I think that game is as mechanically
I get
pure
what
as
you're saying, though.
possible.
Would you call it an action game? I wouldn't call it an action game, would you?
Yeah, in the old school sense, in the SNES sense.
Well, yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I mean
it's a brilliant game. I mean, it deserves all the praise it gets.
very mechanically pure. That's how I look at it.
Well supported as well. It's been updated a number of times. The new achievements are going on all the time.
Well, a little $2 downloadable content. I mean, cash in, man. Yeah, that game is so popular right now. We should mention that Ayla Music has joined us. How you doing? I don't know. Oh, there you are. Sorry, we kind of forgot about you for a second, but welcome up. What do you got for us?
On the topic of DLC, I was curious what your guys' thoughts are on the Forza Horizon expansion that's going to be coming out.
Oh, yeah. I'm excited for it. What are your thoughts on it? Do you have issues with it, or? Oh, they're gone. They've already left.
Still an audience. I'm moving.
Okay.
He's back.
This client is so buggy.
Sorry, man.
No worries.
Lost you. What?
Oh, are we there? Hello?
Hello?
Oh, we're here.
There
all right. We have all kinds of fun with this client sometimes. So, yeah, that was just announced, last week. We heard there was going to be significant DLC. We should mention that Horizon 5 is still doing very well. It actually cracked the top 50. Is that right? Top 30 physical software chart in Japan, which is the first Xbox game to do that in 7 years. So even this far after release, it's still very successful, very popular, especially with Game Pass and all that. So let me ask you: are you happy with the expansion idea, or is this something that you feel like should be free, or how do you feel about it?
It's a bittersweet one because I definitely love Rally, but at the same time, we've had a Rally expansion back in the original Forza Horizon, so it feels like they didn't really add anything new to this Forza Horizon compared to the other ones where you had like Blizzard Mountain or you had the Lego one that was brand new, and it feels like they kind of just rehashed old stuff that they had.
Yeah, the Lego stuff is really good. No, it does. It's been done before, is what you're saying, right? Like we've been dirt tracking and rally racing and all that stuff. Yeah, so that does make sense to me. But it does really seem kind of like a natural fit for the setting of Horizon 5 to me, and I can see why they went that route. But when you bring up like the Lego racer, that's like a whole new game. That's like something completely different,
Are you saying it's not free? Is it? I thought first party content was free on Game Pass. Is this not? Is this
not DLCs?
Not DLCs.
And this one, I'm waiting to see more because I'm pretty sure they promised more features for building tracks and stuff, which we'll see how that works. If you could build your own actual rally course, not just set flags and stuff, that would be pretty dope. If you could have some like an actual real track editor, that would be cool to see. But to me, this is another rally expansion. You brought up Blizzard Mountain or whatever, and that's the first thing that came to my mind. It's like they always tend to do a rally expansion, an expansion focused around rally, and even Hot Wheels was just redoing the Hot Wheels one, which Hot Wheels is awesome. But, they tried Legos before too, and maybe tried something else. I don't know, maybe Matchbox or Mattel or whatever the other one was.
GoBots. I don't know.
Partner with somebody else. Maybe make an anime expansion or something weird. So when you drop in, it's everything everyone hated from Need for Speed. just something new. Try something different, and I'm with him. Because we have but we'll see what the tool editor is. If that comes out and that's awesome, so be it. But also, like, Forge was free for Halo, so yeah. You could make an argument that that's not enough. So we'll see. I want to see more than the announcement trailer, which I personally haven't yet.
And I will be waiting for Motorsport because that's where I like to race. But I'm glad that Horizon 5 has done so well and is continuing to do so well, because I know a lot of people prefer that style of racing, a little more arcadey and a little more free, as opposed to the closed circuit tracks, which is a lot drier. Even I can admit that. So I want to say that does bring us to the end of the news. We've done it.
We missed one.
Oh gosh darn it! Please tell me.
We didn't talk at all about Atomic Heart.
Oh no, we didn't.
That, you know what? Can you? Mikey's the one person that's really dove in on this game, and Atomic Heart has been really popular in the subreddit. We've seen lots of screenshots and stuff like that. Aside from, of course, another controversy, some concern over the source of the game with Russian and Ukraine war and all that stuff. And if you want to research and do some more digging on that, there's plenty of information out there for you to look into it. But let's discuss the game though. Let's just discuss the gameplay, and let's get like a Mikey review. Mikey, can we get a Mikey review?
It's an open world BioShock.
Sold.
Very similar. And it's the studio's first outing. So when it works, it is a beautiful game. There are moments that you walk around and you're just like, wow, this is really cool. And then there are moments that are like, oh man, why is this in the title? There are some bugs. Specifically, I've gotten stuck multiple times where I've had to reload a save because I get stuck between some wall and some other item on the ground. Like there was one section I was doing some parkour stuff, and I made a jump and I totally whiffed it. Totally my fault. And I was ready to walk back to beginning. But the only problem was that I couldn't because I got stuck in some little weird niche area. And I couldn't get out of it. And it happened again where there's this puzzle that you put a ball into a tube and then you direct the ball to a boiler. And this puzzle actually has showed up twice for me. And the second time I'm doing it this to one of 4 boilers, and I'm following the ball through the track, and I'm looking up and I hit a rail and I fall into a small little piece of water, which, you know, hey, you should just be able to pull yourself out. Normally you can, except I'm stuck in geometry again. And I literally couldn't move. So I had to reload my save and backtrack 10 minutes. And it's just really annoying stuff like that when it's not working, you get frustrated with it. The achievements themselves were really buggy. I don't know how they are right now. But at one point, there's ciphers, these little gold watches that you pick up and you listen to them. They're basically audio dialogues. And one person noted that you couldn't actually get one of them that they saw because it was actually, again, stuck in geometry. You couldn't reach it. So you couldn't even beat the achievement if you got them all. Some people noticed that tracking reset once you reset the game. And then other people were able to, on one save file, and this has since been patched, you could just pick up a cipher, reload the game, and pick up the same cipher and just do that 50 times and get the achievement. And you could do that with any collection achievement. You could just like make a weapon and get it back or talk to a dead body. So achievements are really buggy. Some of that's been patched now, but I'm definitely not doing an achievement run right now. It's kind of, again, it's frustrating, but so let me go back to the more positive. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, overall, would you recommend this game? It seems like a negative. It seems like not a great experience so far.
Some of the bugs are, and that's what I was going to get into the positives, because like when you walk around and some of the direction of the art and the combat, I think is punishing and also rewarding. You get thrown tons of enemies at you, but with dodge and the various abilities, you can handle it. And I'm doing a hardcore run or a Armageddon run, and it's tough, but it's, you know, even with like 8 enemies in the room, there's abilities where you can like charge a pistol and do this area blast, and it's so sweet to see that. Or different melee weapons you can pick up, and then you do like the slam and just walk up behind an enemy. And sometimes it's more satisfying rather than doing stealth kill. You just power wield a weapon and just slam down an enemy and kill them in the back instantly, and they shatter.
How do you get all these? Is it like in BioShock you have the tonics, right? You pick up the tonics, and that power gives you these new abilities as you work through the game. Is it that kind of style?
All the abilities you have are available to you at the start as long as you unlock them. There's no abilities you have to find once you get to the I'll call it the sexy refrigerator. And if people have played it, you know what I'm talking about.
I haven't played it, and I'm curious.
This refrigerator, for lack of a better explanation, wants to have sex with you. And this is the upgrade box. It's really weird.
You could not have been more literal in the description. Sexy refrigerator is
it's
wow.
but you get for weapons and stuff and like pieces you get for your weapons, you have to find the blueprint, which from what I've learned, the blueprints show up. They tend to show up in similar areas, but they're kind of random. So you get like 5 blueprints that can show up, but you get one of those 5. And what gets me excited is I've actually just got the final blueprint. I just don't have the resources to unlock the final gun, final few guns. I can't build them yet. But you can tell when you're going to get a blueprint for a new weapon, a new ammo weapon. Melee, you can't really tell because you start getting the ammo from crates. It's like, oh, I'm getting Fat Boy rockets, which, by the way, the rocket launcher is called a Fat Boy. So nod to Fallout.
I was gonna say that seems a little familiar.
So I started getting Fat Boy rockets, and now I'm just like my heart's pulsing. So I'm like, I'm gonna get the freaking rocket launcher here soon. And sure enough, I did. And now I'm just one-shotting like pointless enemies, which is very nice to have, to one-shot multiple pointless enemies on Armageddon. It was very nice to have. But it's it's a lot of fun when it works, but when it doesn't, it gets really frustrating.
The clip that I've seen the most online is everybody's just stopping and watching the guy playing like the keyboard, like the dance, like the craftwork guy on the keyboard. No?
Oh yeah,
I've heard some consistent comments. One is that people are enjoying playing it with the Russian soundtrack with the Russian voice acting. But I've also seen people that speak native Russian saying that it's just as terrible as the English voiceover, but you just don't know it because you can't understand what they're saying. Crispy critters. But we're gonna have to. I think kind of like lay down a verdict on this game, and I know you haven't completed it, Mikey, but you're gonna give this a thumbs up or?
I give it a thumbs up.
Okay,
especially on Game Pass. I think it's $70 on console. Though. I might be wrong. I know it's 60 on PC. I did see that. I haven't actually looked up the price on console. I'll actually do that while we're speaking. Yeah,
then I think
it's 60 on Windows. So
it's a good Game Pass game, right? I think is where I was going to go.
Well, as long as they fix the bugs, it's a definite buy. It's just it's unfortunately buggy, and they've been patching it every day. For people who've been playing it, you know how frustrating, because every day I've opened it and I've had a 20 gigabyte patch. The first day it came out, there was a 70 gig patch.
Yes, and there are a lot of people
in the whole game.
A lot of people were real upset about that with slow internet.
There's 200 bug testers going. What EA have just laid off today.
Are you saying that Atomic Heart should hire them?
They should. But it's really well done. There's so many cool spots. You can do testing grounds, which are cool. They have interesting puzzle mechanics in them, or like boss fights that you can come across. There's just some polish that needs to be done. Like another example was, I walked into a room, and one of the things you can do is talk to dead bodies, because people have this polymer thing in their head that retains their memory. So for like the first day or so, or multiple days, they're still cognitive, or at least the polymer is, as it remembers their memories. So it's still talking as them. And this one dead body was stuck looking at a robot, and he's like, I got to sit here and look at my murderer forever. I killed the robot, and then I talked to the guy again, and he's like, oh, great. I have to sit here and look at my robot murderer forever. His dialogue didn't change. Like just small things like that.
Yeah.
But the bugs kind of add up. So as of right now, if I had to score it, I would give it a 7.9.
Okay,
I think is pretty close to Metacritic.
That's higher than I would have thought maybe. So 7.9 is a pretty solid score. That's a pretty solid game.
His dialogue itself, though, is crispy critters cringy.
Crispy critters.
I don't understand why. That's a phrase he says all the time. Crispy critters. I can't effing believe this. And he likes to drop F-bombs way too frequently. There's a sense of like, this is what I would say in that moment, and it takes it too far.
I like to think that maybe like that's somebody not really familiar with Western dialogue, and they tried their best. And they're like, I think that's what they sound like, right? They say the F word a bunch, and they're all like yippee-ki-yay, and I don't know. So that's pretty funny.
They might have played Bulletstorm in the past.
I wonder, is crispy critters a thing that Russians say? Because
I don't know.
I'm like, who says crispy critters?
I've never seen it before this game. I have seen some people dropping it on Twitter, and I laugh every time though. So maybe it'll catch on.
Now that I remember the dialogue, I'm actually going to give it a 7.5.
He just knocked
one
it 4/10 of a point because
Yeah,
he recalled
sorry.
some cheesy dialogue, which is fine because that's one of the main complaints I've heard about the game anyway. I've been reading lots of comments about it, so you're not alone there. That's definitely it though. I think that was the last thing we had to address. Let's start with Anthony. It is now.
I'm gonna give Atomic Hearts a go. I think I'm planning on doing it this week, and I didn't get around to it, but
Good.
I'm gonna give it a shot. I want to see it. It's a game that I wanted to play anyway.
It's
But,
free on Game Pass.
yeah, it's free.
It's not really free. Don't write me any hate mail, damn it. Let's move on.
When it works, it's like an
10
8.9. It's
Wow.
a fantastic game.
That's a really, really high praise there. And it does look beautiful. It's been a game that's been on a lot of people's radars just because of the screenshots we've seen over the development cycle. So, good. Would you say it's a good basis for a sequel?
Yes. They do enough interesting stuff that I would love to see a sequel to this.
Yeah, when they maybe have a little more budget, a little more time, a little more know-how, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and they don't have to move their development studio out of Moscow.
Yeah, no doubt.
Going on.
When people aren't blowing up around them and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So, they had a really tough development cycle, and probably part of the reason for the delays too, beyond just the technical difficulties of getting a game to run. Let's see. I guess I'm going to be. What am I going to do this week? I'm going to finish Darkest Dungeon, and I'm going to come back and tell you about it next week. There's a lot of games that have been pulling at me. Is for what I'm going to dive in on next. Atomic Heart does look pretty good. I still have Final Fantasy VII Remake to wrap up too. I just have a little bit more to go on that. So I'm going to come back next week with some finishes, which is something that's really rare for me. But I'm close on a couple of games, and I think I can do it, and I'm dedicated and ready. So that's my plan for the week. And I guess we can kind of roll back to Mikey now, even though we just kind of got done with the Atomic Heart recap. Where are you going this week? What are you doing?
Well, I've also been playing tons of Sons of the Forest, so I'm probably going to play more of that with my buddy.
Hold on,
Sequel to the Forest.
Yeah, can you tell me about that, because I've seen a lot of people streaming that. It seems to be kind of a buzz game right now.
A big open world survival title, with some pretty decent base building. You actually have to, once you cut a log, you need to lay the log down, or you can cut like into it and stack. It's very open to how you want to build. And it's cool.
But how's the multiplayer components of it? Because the stream I was watching of it was they were at their base, and somebody came around and started kind of effing with them a little bit, if you know what I mean. It's kind of griefing. Is that a thing? Like, you can play solo, I assume, or is it always online? Or?
You can play solo. You can play co-op. It's only 8 people that can play with you.
Okay.
So if somebody has their world open to public and people are coming in and griefing them, make it private, I would say. That
was actually Girlfriend Reviews that I was watching, so they're pretty well known.
I don't know why they had it open then.
Yeah, some dude just came into their camp and was like, it just started messing with stuff, and she was freaking out, and she had to. It was fun to watch, but it looked a little frustrating, and I started to have Ark concerns. If you know about Ark's multiplayer, which is famously kind of terrible.
Yeah. It's not Ark.
Okay.
I love Ark, but it's not Ark. It's not PvP in any essence.
Okay.
Unless you invite people into PvP, I guess. But it's a player cooperative experience. I was playing with 5 total people, and we had a world open. Dynamic weather was coming, and it was really, really cool. And we had this base built. We had 4 people chopping logs, and I was laying one log at a time. And 40 minutes later, we had this huge wall set up. That was really cool, except it didn't stop the enemies really at all.
It looked great.
I hope that's addressed, because the only way to put a door on it is to use a regular door, and they just walk through. So the fence was really pointless, I guess, unless you want to funnel them.
Well, I mean, yeah, it looks good.
I think the coolest thing about the whole game, outside of how gorgeous it looks and like some of the things you can do, is that you get an AI companion. And this is even in multiplayer. You get Kelvin, and there's also another one, I forget her name, that we actually killed. We didn't know it was AI companion.
It's like, oops,
we murdered her. But Kelvin, he's part of the crash that you're in, this helicopter crash. So he gets brain damage, and you can tell because he's bleeding from his ears. But you can give him simple commands, and you can write on your little note sheet, go gather, and then it gives you a selection menu, logs, and you can tell him to either bring them to you, or drop them off at a location, or gather them and follow you. You can tell him that with any item. So we actually told him, hey, go gather logs and put them here. And he was gathering logs at a decent rate, not near the speeds of a normal player. He was only bringing one log back at a time, but enough that it made a difference. And it's really cool from a solo player perspective to have someone go out and gather your resources for you, gather your logs for building, and you can help out too. But then to be able to focus on building, and when you turn around, there's still more logs there to build with. So that is like a game-changing addition to me in the genre.
Oh, it is, and I'm a solo player, so that sounds really appealing to me. Like, I'm it's probably why I like Skyrim and Fallout and those kind of games, because of the companion systems, and that adds a little flavor to your solo play. So, one last question about the game is, what's it released on? What are the platforms?
Steam.
Just Steam right now?
Just Steam right now.
Okay. It's definitely, like I said, it's a buzz game. I've been seeing it everywhere. So, and I know that you were having a good time with it, and it's interesting to me because I love survival games. I really do. So, it might be worth exploring. So
I'll stop talking now. I could talk about other games, but what I'll play, but we'll get to that next week.
Good news is we're going to be back Sunday, which isn't too far away. So if you all want to join us then, we would love to see you then. If we couldn't have you up tonight, we will catch you then. And we have some prizes. We have a prize vault full of great games. We have like Borderlands 3, Castlevania games, lots of good stuff in there that we have to do some contests or something to get that thing emptied out. Thanks to Alea Music and our first guest, who I forgot, but I will find you. We'll give you guys some Reddit premium for taking part today. A couple of community notes. We will be working with Slow Clap this next coming month. They're bringing Sifu to the Xbox. We don't have an exact release date on that yet, but rumors are maybe late March. Yeah, you might have heard that from here. But take it with a grain of salt until we know for sure. But they're going to do some things with the community. We're going to have probably an AMA, an interview, a code drop, and all that kind of good stuff. So we are going to go all in with them because I know a lot of people are excited about that game. As I mentioned, we will be back Sunday with another full show. We'll have Kevin and the full staff back up here, and we'll dig in on all the developments this week and some of the stuff we didn't get to today. There's just normally this is a slow time of year for video game news, but man, it's just been pouring in. Like every day, it seems like there's 5 or 6 major stories. So if there's something that you would like to discuss, you can send us a mod mail anytime. We'll read it on the air. We'll credit you and maybe even give you a gift or something for taking part. We love it when we get the audience participation, when you guys come in and join us. If you're listening on podcast and you don't know how to find us, head on over to Reddit. Check out the Series X community, and we have all kinds of good stuff happening over there, or the Xbox One community. There's still lots of stuff happening over there too. So other than that's it for me. I'm talking too. I want to get back to gaming. All the fun stuff, so any closing words, guys? No.
Sorry.
That's it. Well, Anthony, it's like 4 a.m. where you are.
I was listening to you. Yeah, it's like 1:20 a.m.
Well,
I said go play Deathloop.
Oh,
I'm going.
That's a solid message. Everybody take Mikey's advice and play for 5 minutes. It's a Game Pass game, take a spin on it. Maybe it'll get you. So I think that's a good note to end on. So I will see you guys Sunday, and everybody have a great night.
See you later, guys. Bye-bye.